4:00. If everybody's ready to go, I'll turn the recorder on. Okay, the recorder is on. It is 4:00 p.m. Today is January 28th, 2025. This is the Bluff Town Council meeting. It's a special meeting to approve a couple of items that couldn't wait until the next scheduled meeting. Roll call.
Britt Hornsby.
Luanne Hook. Jen, you're muted. Jennifer Davila, sorry.
Linda? Linda? Okay, Linda Sosa's on because I can see her. Ann Leppanen.
Oh, Linda Sosa.
All right. And the first thing is approval of Bluff Town Council meeting minutes from January 21st, 2025. Are there any corrections? Has everybody read them? Any points of discussion?
They're not available yet.
The ones from the 21st?
Right. Or, yeah, yes, from last week.
Then it's my misreading, wishing it was a different date, I guess. All right. Then public comment. There is a 3-minute time limit for any person wishing to make a public comment. If you exceed the 3-minute time limit without permission, the meeting controller will mute you. If you wish to make a public comment, put your name in the chat box or raise the hand icon. I'll note that all council, with the exception of Luanne Hook, are meeting virtually today because it's such a short meeting. Lou, is there anyone in the building or online?
No, there's nobody here. And yeah, let's see. Nobody's raising their hand. There are a few guests online, but I don't see anybody.
Okay, if we don't have any public comment, then we'll move to number 1, which is the main purpose of today. Discuss and vote on the Environmental Protection Agency government grant subawardee agreement and an update. Malia Collins is on and she's the project manager. So Malia, do you want to go ahead?
For sure. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for calling this special meeting for this reason. You guys are great. Happy Tuesday. So I have, as well as Lanice, who is on. Hello, Lanice. She and I have put together our document, our partnership agreement between Town of Bluff as well as Rural Utah Project Education Fund. We went back and forth. Her executive director has approved it. And I believe we've had almost everyone look at ours, except we haven't had Chris take a look at it. But the only thing that we're concerned that with this at this point, is our conflict resolution strategy, and then our very final piece on the very last page, page 9, compliance and monitoring, which is basically just with our drawdown procedures. So it's a pretty generic, for lack of a better term, of an agreement. And I believe I've sent it out to all of you. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
and Erin, I think Erin sent it out in the package as well.
Oh yeah, that's right. I know that it was out there. Does anyone have any questions for myself or even Lanice, because she is on here?
So before we go to that, I don't think everyone has had the pleasure of meeting Lanice Peterman, who is with Rural Utah Project Education Fund, which is also under another big umbrella. Maybe we could give Lanice a couple minutes to introduce herself to those of us who haven't met her, or those of you who haven't. Lanice?
Sure. My name's Lenise Peterman. I serve as the Rural Director for the Rural Utah Project Education Fund, which has merged with O2, a policy organization on the Wasatch Front, and we have created Stewardship Utah. So in the overview, the first paragraph, you'll see that we're continuing to do business under our 501c3 as the Rural Utah Project Education Fund. I also serve as the mayor of Helper, not too far away, I think, from Bluff. I've been down many times working with staff in Bluff, and we're excited to partner with you all to get this community center building activated and to help in whatever way we can.
Thank you. Any thoughts or questions for Lenise before we move to the agreement?
I would just like to say thank you. Thank you for being willing to jump in and get involved. I think it's really awesome. So I appreciate it. Look forward to working with you.
So I just want to go back to what Malia was saying about the subawardee agreement. Erin, our town manager, had raised a question whether we should have our attorney look at the conflict resolution provision, which is section 5, I believe. And it is very similar to what we have in our agreement with Utah Geneva KL about basically trying to resolve the issue internally before you reach out, and then letting the other side know you don't feel it's being resolved, and then moving to mediation if you choose to do so. And if that doesn't work, then walking it out to asking to either dissolve the partnership, or in other words, like take it to the max and litigate to get out. The appendix, which I think is Appendix B, is also fairly generic. It's at the very end, I believe, of that appendix. For me, while we've talked internally about having some tighter language for dispute resolution, I feel totally comfortable with moving ahead and going ahead and improving it. As everyone's aware, I assume that the federal government is now at a pause on all grants, and we were told that by the EPA. Well, Malia was told that by the EPA today. Our grant is paused. By some date early in February, the federal government is supposed to outline what grants are affected. And so right now everyone's paused. Federal judge has issued an injunction, so it's going to be the fast track, I think, on this with a lot of bumps. But until we see a list that takes us off, I think we should continue to do business as much as usual to continue to move us forward, which means if everyone's comfortable going ahead and approving. I know that Chris had the agreement. We were on the phone with him yesterday on something else, and he was reading through it. I think if he'd had a concern, he would have reached out to Malia, Erin, or myself because he had time to look at it yesterday. So I'm comfortable with approving it as it is. So thoughts from anybody else? What's your thinking?
Yeah, it's not cut, it's just pause. So yeah, I agree to keep moving forward. Yep.
So let me ask it a different way. Is there any council member who's opposed to moving forward today to approve this so that we can keep going forward? Or do you want to hold off another week?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agreement with Rural Utah Project Education Fund as it is presented.
Is there a second? Jen?
I second it. Yes, I second.
We have
Sorry,
two
I
seconds.
thought I was muted.
So Linda seconded it. Any further discussion? Then all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? So I think, welcome to our new subawardee. And despite the fact that I've been verbally very negative about how we've moved on this, I feel very positive, and I am not feeling like we're down yet. I think we've still got a lot of things we can be doing while the courts fight it out with whoever that is up there. So thank you, Lenise, and thank you to your organization. Anything else on that piece?
Yeah, and thank you, Malia, for pulling it all together as
Oh,
well. 'Cause it's,
yeah.
it's, and Erin, I know you guys are all working on this, so appreciate it all the way around.
Yeah, we couldn't have done it without Erin and Malia, and now with rural Utah. So we're moving forward despite a few roadblocks. This is not the worst one we've ever had. So just keep going. The number 2, Sarah Barak, are you also on the call?
I'm here.
All right. Number 2 is discussion and possible vote to pursue the Utah Playground Grant.
Yes. So I have just kind of a quick presentation. I think Malia sent, or Erin included, a quick 1.5 pager just to kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at. But for the first time ever, the Utah Division of Natural Resources, the Division of Outdoor Recreation, is offering a community parks and recreation grant. This is the first time it's been specifically allows sports fields and playground structures. So there is grant money through the state of Utah specifically for great playgrounds and sports fields. And so I would like to tell you guys a little bit about this grant, and then ultimately kind of get a feel for if this is something that the town of Bluff is willing to pursue. So the awarding amount is anywhere from $5,000 to $200,000 for the project, and they have $2 million to award, and they do expect it to be a fairly competitive grant. The due date for the grant is March 17th, which is why I appreciate you guys allowing me to be on today's agenda so that we can pursue, if we pursue this, we can go ahead and get moving. It does require 20% match, and they do that match based on the county. So as San Juan County, they say that we have to do 20% of whatever our overall ask is. And that is the lowest amount that they allow. So 20% is the lowest match required. That match can be done 50% as cash and then 50% as in-kind donations. So if we were to say request $200,000, the maximum allowable, we would have to match $20,000, and $10,000 of that would have to be cash, which could be getting donations, requesting donations, or if the town has money within the budget to match, put towards that match, that would also be great. And then for our in-kind donations, that could be community volunteers who do labor on the grounds or perform any non-licensed work. And then community members with equipment can also donate their equipment time as part of that in-kind match. So if we were to like run heavy equipment, that could be part of our in-kind match. We can also get upfront funding options, so we can request up to 75% of the grant be awarded prior to construction, and then the remaining would be reimbursed through their reimbursement process. Things we'd have to have 3 letters of support. Some of our possible options would be a letter from you guys, town council, the business owners of Bluff, parents of the community, in the community, Utah University of Utah with design build, Bluff Elementary School, and then we thought potentially UNHS or Mexican Water chapter houses, because it would fit into getting basically families healthier living is kind of the overall goal of the grant. And then I'm gonna skip the Every Kid Outdoor program real quick, and then we come back to that because that's kind of a separate note. But just to give you some ideas, we were thinking you could apply for either the Bluff Community Center or the Cooperative Cultural Center, the CCC. I always get my C's mixed up, but you have 2 locations that would qualify. We could apply for both, but as it's the first year, we would be competing against ourselves. So it might be better to prioritize the location and focus on that versus trying to submit for 2 locations when we know that there's going to be a lot of people applying and they may not grant both to us anyway. So you can also phase the project. And so our playground committee is proposing phase 1, essentially, that we try to do phase 1. And if we were to do a phased project for the community center, I would push for a playground, a larger swing set, and maybe a half-court basketball court, and then maybe some of the section of walking path. It also allows us to do shade structures and lighting, so we could also illuminate the basketball court if we wanted to. And then we could also research ways that we could maybe do something else, a multi-use surface on the basketball court. And then phase 2 would be things like the softball field, horseshoes, parking, bleachers. It does allow for a splash pad. So if we wanted to research a splash pad, we could do that. If we were to focus on the cooperative cultural center, we would say phase 1 would be focused on a toddler playground, an elementary age play space, and then to repave the basketball court that already exists. Phase 2 would be adding maybe a sports court, which could be soccer, like extending the soccer field or pickleball. Anyway, those were kind of some of our suggestions. We could also couple this with the Utah Outdoor Recreation Grant and use it for either the outdoor classroom grant, and that could be part of it could also double as our match. You can use it against it for this grant. But we were thinking that some options would be if we were to expand at the Bluff Community Center, we could put in a stargazing space. That would be our classroom space. We could also put in kind of a stage or lecture space, but it would be one of those things to kind of think about what that would be. So in conjunction with the CPR grant, it can help round out additional needs of the Bluff Community Center. Eligible costs, development and rehabilitation of recreation amenities that support and enhance recreation infrastructure are eligible for costs, which could include trail, wayfinding, kiosk, interpretive signs, parking, restrooms, drinking fountains, benches, irrigation, and landscaping. So that could be used in conjunction with our playground agreement or grant. And then is it okay if I share my screen and I'll give you kind of a real quick look at what we were kind of looking at for the computer screen audio open. Oh, I don't know if it's going to let me. It's told me something funny as soon as I hit it. Can I share? Let me share this one. Okay. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay. And this may be something that you guys have seen before. This was part of Hiroko Yamamoto shared this with us. It was part of discussions with the community, I think, prior to incorporation. So it's been quite a while since this has kind of come up. But this is a proposed plan for the community center. This doesn't have to be our full and final plan. We can definitely take time to discuss it more. But what I really want the council to focus on is the idea of if we were to have this particular playground grant and we were to focus on the community center, this section right here, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but it's half court and playground. And it's that space between the community center and the pavilion. And it would be shifting the playground over and adding a half court. And then we could also work on the trail around it. And this is what we're proposing to be phase 1. So this would be our phase 1. We'll be getting a half court, which would give play space to older children and adults, and then get us a larger playground that would be multi-age. So that would have, it would be kind of a pre-K to upper, and then a larger swing bank. So we have 2 swings. We would like to have at least 4 swings. And this is kind of where we'd like to focus on this first. If we focus on the community center, this is how we're kind of envisioning using this first grant. And then questions, thoughts?
I like the idea of focusing on the community center versus the CCC, given everything that we've got to deal with right now. And it sounds like this grant could come in. If we were to get this grant, it could come in at a point where we're still working with Utah Geneva Kea and trying to do construction. And we don't have a firm plan on what areas are common at the CCC and what areas are designated to each entity. So
And so you said the due date is March 31st,
March 17th.
March 17th. We've gotten Utah to Recreation Grant money before with Bears Reach Partnership. That's part of the funding for the Sand Island work we did and some other stuff we've done. So yeah, they normally award them in like late May. So, and then you have like, I don't know if there's a stipulation. Is there a time limit, Sarah, on this one? Like that?
I think we have 2 years to spend the money.
Yeah, that's normally what it is a 2 year. So you have a 2 year, as soon as they award it, you have a 2 year clock to get it done. So, and they'll award it in late May, early June normally.
Go ahead, Luanne.
Okay, yeah, thanks for pulling up these old plans because it's fun to see them again. And I agree with Ann. I think we need to focus on the community center for this. And I really like what you're looking at for phase one. My only concern is that we have a lot of interest in pickleball. But to bump that over there, and then I guess you'd have empty space if you tore out the old playground and added a new, or maybe kept the old one as a small space and then put the new one in the new area. But having that pickleball down there, that's pretty popular, and I think it would get a lot of use if it had some fence around it and whatnot. And that I like where it's there. It gets the sunshine and the exposure, and people can walk in or park or whatever. I also like the idea of having something for adults and the bigger kids next to your playground. I think that's a good thought. But it could be maybe the next phase. I'm not sure how many people will play basketball, but I think they would play pickleball. And they are. So that would be my suggestion, is go ahead and put the playground in, but have, instead of the half court basketball, put in the pickleball.
Yeah, and I think we're open to that, Luanne. Thank you for that comment. One of the things when we looked at it being a half court, we're like, well, could it also be pickleball from the very beginning? So we were already kind of thinking along the same lines.
And I think out there where it is a little better spot in my mind, just for the access for players and the visibility of it. And if you keep something a little less intense up by the playground, a little more peaceful over there, and the shade of it, I think it would be nicer out in the wide open.
Yeah, and we could, this doesn't have to be our only plan. This is kind of the one we were looking at, but there is also this one. I don't know if you guys can see this one, but this is the previous plan. So this is, I guess, the one they settled on, I guess, in 2019. But we could also shift like this, where we just encompass more of a playground space, and the tennis court, the pickleball court, still in the same rough location.
See, and I like that. That's that would preserve your existing playground as much of, because a little bit's still functional, and you would add to that in that space. So I guess that's what I would kind of see. And then the tennis court would go in there however that fits. But
yeah, which gives us we have a little bit of time to play with this, but what's nice about this grant is that we can do it in phases. So we could apply this year and do phase one, which maybe gets us pickleball and playground, and then spend our money, do our construction. 2 years from now, we can apply for phase two of this project through the same grant. And that could work to get us our soccer field or our parking. It gives us some time to build what our overall plan would be.
I think that in terms of holding to representation that I made is that we would make this a short meeting since we had to call a special one. I think that what Sarah's asking for is authority to be able to go forward on the grant application itself. And I'm assuming they'd come back, the playground committee would come back with some specific stuff between now and the due date. So if I'm doing that correctly, Sarah, what I'd like to say, if you've got a short comment, let's do it. Otherwise, let's leave the planning and adjustments for the next round of meetings on this.
Yes, I am looking for go forth and do this. I'm also looking for maybe a thought about match. We feel like 20,000 is an okay match for us to make as a town. And then the last thing is I would like to request additional members of the playground committee. That's one of my other requests. So in this meeting, may I move forward with pursuing this grant? May we add committee members? And then we can talk more about match later and what our final ask is for.
Does someone have their hand up?
Looks like Erin does.
This is Erin. I just wanted to mention that the town did approve funding for capital projects, I believe to include playground stuff. So I can go ahead and look for that number, and then perhaps the council can consider the total cash match amount in subsequent meetings.
Thank you, Erin.
Thanks. Thanks, Erin. So it's
Yeah.
approval of going forward and to add additional committee members.
I motion that we approve for Sarah Burek to pursue grants for the playground at the community center and to broaden the playground committee by adding additional people.
Second.
Any further discussion? Then all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you, Sarah and Playground Committee. This is
Thank you, guys.
all right. Then number 3 was a discussion and possible vote on the Bluff Airport lease with the Bureau of Land Management. We got a draft lease from the BLM last week. It's a 5-year potential lease. I had some follow-up I needed to do, and I did not get to it by the time I got back into town. So I'd like to move this to our meeting on the 4th, and I'll have a little more information. Is everyone okay with that, or? Okay. All right, this will move to the 4th then, and hopefully I'll have a little more information on options and how we do things. Then is there any other? Okay, hearing that there is no other, it is 4:28 p.m.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's unanimous. See you all later. I'm turning off the recorder.
Thank you.
Have a good day.